Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Donspektor here today with another tip review, and finally, after pushing this forward in front of me for like weeks, we are finally taking a look at the Moondrop Spring ear tips. Yeah, this is Moondrop's first attempt, I want to say, to make their really own tip, or at least I haven't seen any other like OEM or like any other company making tips that are similar to this. And yeah, they are, I want to say, at least from what I've read, relatively positively rated. And in today's review, we are going to take a look at if this really is the case, what these tips can, what they can't, how comfortable they are. And yeah, also, we are also going to look at, of course, if they actually worth the price. And as usual, I'll be starting off with a small introduction here. So yeah, these are the spring tips here, and yeah, they clock in at $13 for 3 pairs, as you can see here. 1 pair is out in usage. I'm going to take that soon so we can take a closer look at that. And that generally makes them relatively cheap for good ear tips. So yeah, Final E, for instance, would be like $8 per pair. Zetna EarFit, the normal ones, would be like $6.5 per pair. Compli foam tips would be like $5 to $8 depending on what variation you get per pair. And then in the middle of the pack there would be something like the Softears liquid silicone tips, which I took a look at like 2 weeks ago or so, and I can highly recommend those. And yeah, then and on top of the crop basically would then be X Elastics, but would be like $9.5 per pair. And then the most expensive tip what you will be able to find currently is something like this here, the Aslar Crystal. Yeah, they are whopping $12.5 per pair. So yes, these are then 4.3 euros/dollar per pair, which makes them definitively cheap. And yeah, in the subsequent review, I'll be finding out if this is actually like a cost due to them cheaping out on places, or if it's just that they're like, yeah, you know, we can sell good tips for cheap, why not do so? And I'll be starting off as usual with comfort. Whoop. So here, let me get an IM in the picture. Yep, so we can take a closer look at the tip. This is the Moondrop Spring tip, and you can already see it has this kind of groove pattern here. Let me see if I can actually turn it around like 180 degrees. Yep, so easy to see, like we have these grooves inside here, and now let's flip them back so we can actually see the front. And you can also see the outlet here definitively is relatively special because, yep, this is not what you usually get with other tips. Yeah, let me just get the Crystal, because Crystal is, I want to say, the closest competitor. I'll be talking more about that later on, we talk about sound. But you can see like Crystal here has this like funnel shape or like light horn shape going on here. And if I remove the spring here, well, same shape, not exactly the same, right? Because yeah, as said, pointed out before, we have this has this grooves here, also at the outlet, but generally these are both like funnel or horn shaped. And you can already see one difference here in terms of material. Let me flip that around. So this one definitively is on the thinner side here, while this one is far thicker. And yep, also let me just get them right so you can see it here. Yep, the crystal also like 2 millimeters longer also. So that can already be one point to factor in when we talk about comfort. And yeah, generally Moondrop has, let me just read it out for you, because again, it's marketing bingo bullshit as of the finest. Spring ear tips ensures the surface of the tip cap fits well in the ear canal and prevents stickiness through special mold treatment. The picky selected soft silicone material makes the comfort far exceeds that of similar products, and meanwhile adds a radial double support structure to avoid the collapse of the tips of a tip cap and prevent the bass leakage. Well, yep, I mean, first, sorry for misreading a few things here, like I had to correct myself, but generally, yep, this is how they decide to phrase it. Again, very good English, even for me as non-native English speaker. And if we remove all of those bullshitty terms, what it basically says is, yeah, we have some silicone, we have grooves, and the grooves are going all the way to the front, and that's it. Like, that's what it says here. Furthermore, they claim, and again I have to quote them here, combination of softness and elasticity, medical grade silica gel material. So I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Similar to the Soft Ears liquid silicone tips, like, of course Soft Ears doesn't make any advertisement for their tips, but I think I want to say it's pretty soft silicone, like question mark, maybe. So yeah, that's basically the PR you have to deal here. And in practice, this means, before I talk about the measurements, the tip is really squishy. Like, compare it directly to the crystal here. Crystal has far more structure. Like, I'm not sure if this is like visible on camera as well, but this is basically the same pressure, and like I can basically almost halve this in terms of diameter, while crystal just barely flinches there. Of course, again, you can see this as a material. Like, crystal is definitively thicker than this here, so yeah, that can be in case here. And also the front outlet here, you can see crystal definitively having more structure at the front, while the spring ear tips here are relatively thin there as well. So in theory, when you just look at the tip, you assume it should be pretty comfortable. It's very squishy, it's thin, it's pliable, and yeah, unfortunately in real life, it's a mixed bag. Like, I would say it's a mixed bag. Here I got the AJ07M because that's one of the few examples where I can actually use the spring tips on, because as you can clearly see here, this nozzle is pretty short. I think it was like 3 millimeters or something, or 3.5. And that basically, let me just mount the tip again so you can see how it fits on here. Means you have like maybe 3 millimeters or so of tip going in your ear. And that makes it pretty comfortable. Like, I can wear the spring tips on the AJ07M without too much complications. However, and this is the big however, if I put these on longer nozzle IEMs, like, it doesn't matter like how much longer, like 2 millimeters longer, 3 millimeters longer, just longer nozzle IEMs, I cannot wear them. And it really gets painful really fast. Like, I'm not sure what I wrote in my article here, so see the comment or see like in the description of this video. I have the written review for the spring ear tips, and yeah, I cannot wear them for long times, like maybe 10-15 minutes or something, but not more. So yes, where was I? Yes, sorry for this cut. I just had on call. Yes. So yeah, I was like, if the nozzle gets longer, right? For instance, this one, as you can see, clearly like 2 millimeters more or so, cannot wear them on here. And I even have the smallest size so far. This is S, what I have here. And that already brings me to the part where I tell you like what sizes these are available. So I have S here, and there's no XS. So the smallest one actually is S. And that is, what I have here, wait, let me just go to my notes. Yes, 9.4 millimeters in diameter. So like this way, 9.4 millimeters in diameter. M would be 10.8 millimeters, L 11.8, and XL, I don't know why we have XL but not XS, don't ask me, would then be 14 millimeters. So bit of an odd choice here to jump from 11.8 to 14. I would have expected like 12.8 or 13, but not 14. It's this bit of a big jump for me. And then again, pretty odd, like, why do you have XL but not XS? Because that could be one of the reasons, like, or this could work for me maybe better if you would even offer XS. Which is again odd, because 9.4 millimeters in diameter here is already relatively small. So it not fitting well with this size indicates to me that AFA, or like, no, sorry, not AFA, it just indicates to me that this type of grooving here, and furthermore, the relatively sharp outlet here, like, it's difficult to show on camera, but compared to the crystal here, this does not have a sharp outlet. It's smooth, right? It's in corner, but it's smooth. This one here, however, has a sharp outlet. Like, really, it's not like cutting sharp, right? But definitely is sharper than the crystal there. And together, that together with the like ring at the front, like directly the like let me get directly in the camera, with the like less pliable ring at the front, and the grooves in here that usually, or like most likely, will cause an uneven pressure like around the front edge, will probably cause the pain for me in my ear. Another reason that I thought about, but I'm not entirely sure, due to the horn shape here, the pressure will generally not be like at the ring, like somewhere here, as it is with most other tips, where you have like the ring, basically this part here, where my fingernail is lying in your ear, but you will have this part here at the front lying in your ear canal. And that, when squeezed, yeah, you can see it, like this will be the part where you will have pressure in your ear canal. And that can also be in case why it gets so uncomfortable for me. Even for the tip itself is really squishy. Like, again, let me show you, like this is a really squishy tip, but I just cannot get it comfortably in my ear. So yeah, sorry for this detour. Let's come back to measurements. S actually is also the shortest of the tips, which we can easily see here in comparison again to the crystal. This is crystal, like 2 millimeters longer. So this one is relatively short, only measuring 8.2 millimeters in length, followed by M with 9 millimeters in length, by L 9.8 millimeters in length, and XL 10.7 millimeters in length. So at least here it totally makes sense that S would be the shortest, because usually smaller ear canals also tend to be not so deep. So there it totally makes sense that they scaled down the shortness here. Unlike other tips where for whatever random reason with the soft ears tips, S was the longest tip. I still don't know why, but yeah, somehow it was. Okay, so yes, I think that pretty much sums it about comfort. Like, I just can't get this to wear comfortably in my ear. Just doesn't work. I can't get it to fit. Like, even on shorter nozzle IMs, like I can maybe wear it for like 30 minutes or so, and then it definitely gets uncomfortable. Which again is weird, because this tip here, the crystal tip, is generally like harder and it feels less pliable like this. But as I also said, like it feels also less sharp in the front edge, so that could be one reason. So yeah, generally not comfortable tip. Like I cannot get it to fit well in my ears. Like fit well is the wrong word, sorry. It fits very safe. So again, let me stress that this tip fits really safe in my ear. I can basically chew with it, I can walk with it, like it will fit well, but I can't get it fitted comfortably. So those are different shoes here, because this one fits definitely more comfortable and about the same in safeness. I think this one maybe fits a bit safer in my ear canal, but this one's just more comfortable overall. So I would always choose this one, even if it pushes itself out easier, would still choose this one over this one here. So yeah, in my ranking list, starting from the left here would be top XLR stacks, like those are the most comfortable tips you can buy, absolutely. Followed by cut foam, followed by spin fit on the same level as liquid silicone tips, followed by crystal tips, followed by final E, followed by spring tips, and then last place all the way here, like, you know, it should be out of the screen because it's so horribly in terms of comfort, the normal Zettner ear fit ones. Like those are just horrible, like never buy these, like they're much too stiff, nobody can use them ever. Okay, so that sums up comfort. Then let's come to isolation, and whoop, let me just flop it around. Ain't great is all I can say. Like the mantle is relatively thin, the material is pretty pliable, and this overall leads to it isolating not great. Even for random silicone tips, generally, nah, like it doesn't isolate good. Like if the on the arbitrary scale from 0 to 10, where like, or from 1 to 10, sorry, where 1 is a really flimsy, like really cheap silicone tip, so no isolation there, and 10 would be a dense foam tip, like perfectly fitting for you, this would be like an 3.5 to 4 out of 10, like really is below average, and I will not recommend these to wear outside. Like isolation is just not good enough. And that brings me to shaping sound. And yeah, again, I will be doing 2 chapters on shaping sound. First the subjective one, and second the objective one. Subjective means I just tell you like how it sounds to my ear, just listening to it. And then objective meaning, yeah, I put it on my IEC 711 coupler on 2 IEMs, measure the difference, what it does, or what the tip does compared to other tips. And again, starting with subjective, Yeah, like my usual benchmark tips are random silicone tips with a medium outlet size, like 4 to 4.5 millimeters. That's my benchmark. So going from there, it's no surprise that these, with their outlet, I did measure it. Like the outlet is 6.4 millimeters in diameter. That's huge. Like definitively has a good stage size. And that's also what I hear with them. Like putting these on gives you, like among, for instance, the crystal ones here, gives you pretty good sound stage, and you do have a more open feeling that you would have when you go in with more smaller bore tips, like the fine lead tip. Definitely these are better in this regard. But coming also with the, I want to say big outlet does come, but to my ear, treble is not dampened. So fine lead definitely does dampen treble, like it lowers that. This definitely does not do that. However, what you do get is, I think it's due to the horn or like the funnel shape here, or maybe due to the material. Yeah, base quality definitely does get deteriorated by this tip. It's similar to the crystal, like also crystal at the feeling base, like definitely gets more loose. It loses its tightness, it loses control, quality. So this is also the case with the spring tip here. So yeah, one thing I had noted though that I still want to say here, what these tips claim is that they reduce resonance peaks in the treble and upper treble. And I got to be honest, on some of my IEMs I threw them on, I had the feeling this could be true. I didn't take a note which IEM though, but I had this when I just listened to random IEMs. Like at one point I noted in these Telegram for notes, funny enough, I just noted, does sound less harsh than I'm used to. So I think this could be the case, that on some IEMs, this like grooving style here of outlet can reduce resonance peaks, but I can't be certain, right? That's why we are going to now to objective sound, where we get certain about things because we are taking a look at measurements. So nothing with, this is how I feel, this is how I hear it. No, here we are looking at the data. And okay, comparing to crystal, boy, these are basically identical. Like there is just a slight deviation in the upper treble, but really, boy, these are so similar. Like what the hell? Like, can we again just show you both tips here so we can see again? Like these are clearly different materials. Like they're clearly different sizes, and the grooving inside clearly very unique about this one. But in terms of measurement, again, let me throw the measurement. Like this is so similar. Like I really would call it identical. And only after 10K we see a deviation here. But again, IEC 711 Kepler ain't that accurate after 10K. So everything we see after 10K is basically ignorable because, yeah, like the difference there's maybe on graph like 2 decibels or so. Even that can be ignored. So yeah, like I cannot confirm that other people said that these, like the spring tips reduce upper treble. I cannot confirm it by my ear. I cannot confirm it via measurement. I can just tell you maybe it's possible, as it is with most things here, like depending on how your ear canal is, how the resonances are there, maybe it can reduce resonance peaks in the upper treble, as I noticed with sibilants at 8K. Maybe that can be the case, but at least with the IEMs I measured here, definitely isn't. And I would go as far as to say, the only thing that these two do towards shaping sound is only caused by them having a funnel/horn shape and not by them being like grooved on the inside, or that really does not affect the sound from what I see it. And that brings me to additional factors, and I try to keep this chapter short because I've been ranting about comfort for far too long. Let me place flashback. So according to a spec sheet, the spring tips do manage and come on, sharpen camera, go sharp. The spring tips are ranging on the inside, like the inner diameter here, is for IEMs with a nozzle of 4.8 to 6.4 millimeters. That basically makes them usable for all kinds of IEMs. And having here again my HJ07M, this is a 6 millimeter nozzle, and yeah, you can just flop it on there, like absolutely no problem. Easy as that. However, what I would say is, coincidentally, like, get the Moondrop variations in here. This has a 6.4 millimeter nozzle, and as you can see here, It's huge. Like, this is chungus as hell. And yeah, you can fit these on here. Let me see if I can manage. Easy. See? Very pliable. Again, like, I think this is a good tip for wider nozzle IEMs because it just fits on there pretty well. So that is nice to know. So you can fit them on thick nozzle IEMs. And yeah, also in terms of material, I think this is pretty lasting. Like, I'm not sure if, let me just turn it around here. This still measures approximately 4.8 millimeters in diameter. I did take a measurement again, and I have been wearing them on the variations. I have been wearing them on the AJ07M and a few other IEMs, and still it does basically have the same diameter in the middle. And also, whoop, you can see it's still white, like did not decolor in any way, unlike the XLR stacks, but basically deteriorate after a few months. Not the case with this one. It basically looks as new. So that also brings me to the conclusion. This is a relatively lasting tip, which is nice. And yeah, cleaning them, yeah, you can just use, because it's not sticky at all. That's what I forgot to mention when we talk about comfort. Absolutely not sticky. Like, this is just very smooth silicone. No stickiness whatsoever. You can just like wash them easily. Like, ear gunk does not stick to them well, so just wash them, should be okay. If you are really wanting to be sure, I think you can easily use soap or even alcohol. Like, it's just silicone here, unlike XLR stacks that maybe deteriorate with alcohol. Like, here, just should be okay. Like, absolutely no issue. And one last tip about additional factors. So I really want to tell you, instead of buying the spring tips by themselves, which I did, be smart, buy Moondrop 2. Moondrop 2 is like 25 euros at the moment, also 23, something like that. And you get S, M, and L spring tips with it. So assuming that you would be buying spring tips by themselves for 13 euros, yeah, you would get the 2 for 10 euros. And the 2 for 10 is an awesome deal because it's very well tuned. I've not heard it so far myself, but the tuning is really like nailed for this price. And yeah, you can just take it with you, throw the shoe in the office, throw it in your car, whatever. For 10 euro, it doesn't matter. You just buy a new one if it breaks, like absolutely no deal. But you do get the spring tips, which definitively could be for some, I see. Like, if your ear canal is not so sensitive as mine, like maybe you can get it to fit. So yeah, instead of spring tips, I would just say buy shoe and use the tips that come with it. And that brings me to the conclusion. Boy, it's difficult. Because spring tips, definitely are cheap. They clocking in at only 4.3 euros / dollar per pair, which is a huge difference compared to other tips that do measure similar, like always identical, like the crystal tip here, which is $12.5 / euro per pair. So if you are after just an like funnel or like a horn shape-ish sound, like these can be a good choice for you. And also if you're not so sensitive as me in the ear, yeah, maybe these can be really comfortable for you. But if you're more sensitive as I am, like I just can't wear them and I cannot recommend them in terms of comfort. They just hurt after a bit more, like 10-15 minutes on shorter or longer nozzle IEMs, and on shorter ones after like 30. So really not as comfortable as you might think when you look at the tip here. Also in terms of sound, yeah, like similar to the crystal tip here, unfortunately it does deteriorate bass quality to my ear, and that is not fixable via EQ. But what would be fixable via EQ would be resonance peaks in the treble. Like, this could be easily fixed in EQ. You just go to 8K, you dampen 8K by 2 to 3 decibels and it will be gone. Or you go to, let's say, 14K or 15K and just dampen it by a few decibels. Easily fixable via EQ, like no issue. But what is not fixable again is bass quality. And yeah, spring does deteriorate bass quality to my ear. So I'm not sure like who the target group here is. Like, maybe if you don't need good bass quality, like maybe then, or maybe if you don't mind it and you listen to music more because you like treble or mids, then it would be okay. But generally, like, I ain't a fan of this tip so far. Like, it is not really comfortable. It is cheap though, that's nice for it. And maybe if you like it just fitting secure, which it definitely does, then it could be for you. But yeah, no, comfort, it basically is out just because it ain't comfortable. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, if you have other tips to recommend, if you have other IEM tips, please leave a comment. And with this, Donspektor out.